at their regular litter. But we also have a full-size litter box at the back seat. It's a covered litter box, especially because Lynxie is a kicker. So you have to give him an enclosed space. So if not, you're going to be just showering in litter. So just a few things to keep in mind is like, obviously, you know your own cat. So if they have any, special quirks, like if they're a kicker, give them covered space or things like that. Just as long as you know your cat and what they need, it's more easier to kind of take the things that they need in your travels.
Absolutely. And I love that recommendation to check in with the vet first and see if they have any recommendations for how to care for those senior kitties in preparing for those adventures. And then the tips to, like limit the food right beforehand to help with if there is any motion sickness. And then, just to kind of stay on this topic of helping train older cats for a little bit longer, what was most helpful for you in terms of harness training and backpack training your older kitties? Just because I know a lot of folks are really wanting to figure out that process.
The most helpful tip that I have, or what helped me the most, is like I mentioned before, is that I didn't put any expectation on this process. Like I didn't have a timeline. So that made it more easier because one of the first things that they do when you try to harness train them is just flop, which I'm sure a lot of people have found. It's not because you can't train them, but it's just I guess an automatic reaction. Like Lynxie forgot how to walk for a couple of days. Every time I put the harness, he would flop and then he'll walk like like huge steps, like he's never walked before. But I kept it on. You give them treats, so you're associating it with something positive. Positive reinforcement works 100%. You want to associate the harness with something fun, like maybe play with them with their favorite toy when they have their harness on, or give them their favorite treat, and keep it simple. Don't try to overcomplicate it. And if you feel that they're really uncomfortable at the beginning, just take it off. It's okay. Try again tomorrow, try again the next week. So taking that pressure off them as well as myself. So when you start and then say 2 weeks down the road, you feel okay, maybe he's a little bit happier with the harness on now, or maybe he's not. It's okay. It may take you 2 weeks, it may take you a month, it may take you 6 months. It doesn't matter. There is no, like, try not to compare yourself with other cats, other cat parents. It's not a competition. We all move at our own pace. So that's my biggest tip.
Leave him alone. I can know what's in your head, miss. Get out of there.
And just a quick reminder, thank you so much, Safrina. If you can, please keep your microphones muted just so we can keep the sounds, the background sounds to a minimum. Thank you so much. I know that using Zoom with this large of a group is a lot. But yeah, those tips are so helpful, Safrina. And the main theme I'm hearing come up is, shift the expectations based on what your cat's capacity and preferences are. Each cat is going to be different and their pacing is going to be different. And I think that's so important to keep in mind. I want to make a quick note. If you have any questions that are specific to training older cats, keep it in mind for the end of our session, because I'm gonna come back and ask you all if you have any lingering questions. So just make a note for yourselves. So we're going to shift a little bit. Ryan, I know that you have a lot of experience hiking with your cats, and sometimes the hikes can be quite long, right? And so they're not necessarily going to be on the ground hiking the whole time. So how did you manage to train them to stay in the pack with the top flap open? A lot of people are asking that question.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just like what Safrina said, it is basically a patience game. You never want to take your cat out of their comfort area. So what we like to do essentially is like, once your cat gets pretty comfortable just familiarizing themselves with the backpack itself, and you're outdoors and they're pretty comfortable with the outdoor space as well, we just honestly roll up the top and we leave it open completely. So they have the choice to jump in or out whenever they want. So if they ever feel uncomfortable, they have every right to retreat back into their bag, or if they feel a little bit more adventurous, there is safety clips in both the Navigator and the your cat, the Fat Cat backpack as well. Just safety clips just to make sure that your cat doesn't jump out or anything like that. So sometimes our cats will actually just kind of peek out and like sit on our shoulders with that safety clip still being clipped behind them, just to make sure that they aren't falling out or falling on the ground, just in case. But yeah, honestly, it really is just more of like a clip and play kind of thing. Just leave it open, see how your cat feels. It always is just gauged on their behavior, essentially.
Yeah, I love that note to kind of cue into whatever they're signaling. If they're ready to like get back on the ground, they're probably going to let you know.
Absolutely.
If they're kind of like parked on the trail and like hunkered down, loafing, like being stubborn, all right, like maybe it's time to get back in the pack. So really cueing into their body language. And every cat's preference is going to be different. So took quite a while for my cat in particular to want to ride in the pack with the top open. He just always wanted to be on the ground, but very recently he has started to enjoy the ride. So it can take up to 4 years. That's us. Yeah. So Zafrina, I love that you do adventures with both of your cats. And there are quite a few folks who also have multiple cats. What tips do you have for managing that time outside if you've got more than one kitty with you?
Oh, my biggest tip would be you need a second pair of hands. Hands up. Like I cannot do it with both of them by myself. If I do plan on doing something outside with them, it'll only be one at a time. Mainly because of safety. Like you never know what you would run into. Like where we live, on the trail, sometimes there's coyotes. There's a lot of dogs walking around, so you definitely need that extra pair of hands. So all our adventures are always myself and my husband. I wouldn't do it any other way, just because I know myself and I will not be able to handle two freaked out cats at the same time. And here you go, they're fighting now. So even then, like
Classic.
I need a second person for sure.
Yep, absolutely. We do some adventures with both of our cats as well, and it's very helpful to have two pairs of hands. I know there are a lot of folks though that aren't able to do that, and so occasionally, if I'm doing adventures with both of my cats and it's just me, I'll put one in the pack and I'll have the other on leash, and we'll just trade. And I'm like, I hate it when things maybe don't feel fair. And so I literally will set a timer for one cat to do this amount of time on the ground. And then we swap, and the swap can be stressful for people. So I would say don't pressure yourself to try that if you're not comfortable switching from one kitty being on the harness to the other. The other thing I might mention is that making sure your kitties are able to respond to your name or some kind of signal can be really helpful in case they do kind of scutter away from you. My cat responds to my whistle, which is amazing. I don't even know how it happened. There are some other panels today that I think cover clicker training, so those might be good ones to go to for some training tips. So I want to ask you, Ryan, about some of your camping tips. That's another category that some people have been interested in. Like, okay, harness trained my cat. I've done the backpack training. I want to go camping with them. What is some of your advice for helping prepare cats for something like that?
Definitely. So I would say the number one advice I would give is always plan ahead. Like whether it's like a week out to a month out, you always want to plan ahead, even if you're not bringing your cats. Like camping in general, you would always like to plan ahead. You always want to make sure that the area that you're going to like is completely pet friendly. Usually when they say pet friendly, it doesn't necessarily mean cat friendly. So you always want to make sure and double check with the area or the representative of that area, whether or not it's,
Meeting is canceled this afternoon.
um,
Just
yeah.
another quick reminder to stay muted for the attendees. Thank you so much for bearing with us. Yeah.
Yeah, but essentially just plan ahead. You want to plan all your gear, which includes like any kind of bags, harnesses, leashes, food, treats, or anything like that. We usually like to bring the portable litter box as well, even though our cats do enjoy using the outdoor space as their own litter box. But you remember, you want to never leave a trace with cat, droppings. You never want to just leave it out. You always want to have it bagged up and everything as well. But again, it's just like the number one advice I would say is definitely plan ahead, way, way ahead. And it'll make your job way easier, especially when you go camping and you're not stressing out. You'll have everything prepared beforehand as well.
I love that. Yep. Planning ahead, making sure that you've got all the gear that you might need. And then one practical question for you, Ryan. Do your kitties do well in the tent itself, or do you choose to keep them in the car? How does that work while you're sleeping and they might not be?
I'll actually let Kales explain this.
Okay.
First time we actually took Newt and Emo camping, it's kind of a funny story. So it went well, like everything went well. We went to bed. Our cats were very adventurous the whole time. So we went to bed, we closed up the tent, and we woke up in the middle of the night and they were gone. Like we had no idea what happened to them. They were gone. They were just outside. They had managed to sneak outside. I'm not saying that's going to be the experience for everyone. That it's a heartbreaking experience. You think they're gone, but they were just chilling. They were there. We actually took everything off of them. They had no harness on. They had nothing. So honestly, keep everything on them. You want to make sure that they're still secured in a way and they're safe. Know your tent, because if you have a tent that's at least 10 years old, it's probably not the best thing and the safest thing for your cat. It is trial and error. So know your area. Don't go on some crazy wild camping trip for the first time ever, because you don't know what's going to happen.
I'd also say know your cat's behavior as well. Newt is an extremely intelligent cat. He can open zippers like nothing. So if your cat's that case, I would recommend maybe having like a child-proof lock or something on your zipper just in case that happens. So, but I mean, as of right now, they're completely fine. They're not too crazy about it. So
I love it. Wow. That's a great example of some of the trial and error that comes up in figuring out what adventures do work for your cats, which ones maybe are like, that's a little too extreme. When we go camping with our cats, we live in an area that doesn't get too hot. And so we actually keep them in the car at night because they also like to try to escape the tent. Yeah, so figuring out what works for your family is the most important. So I know both of you do water adventures with your cats, right? So I'd just love to hear like some snippets of what you've done to train and prepare for those. Maybe even just like the gear that you make sure you bring along to have those water adventures be safe.
Something that we do take a life jacket with us. However, so far we haven't really found a life jacket that is not bulky. Every life jacket we've found so far is really bulky. It's really, I don't feel like it's really comfortable on them so far. And once they're out on the water, they don't like to wear it. I know it's really like you're supposed to keep it on. We try, like we really tried, but they just don't want to wear it. They're always on, like they have the harness and the leash on, so one of us is always like holding on to the leash. But one of the ways we kind of trained them in a way is we would take them by the river, kind of let them hang out there, get kind of used to the sounds, the waves, the boats going about, the people, just to get them used to it. Neither of them have actually been like in the water. I don't know if they know how to swim or not, but they've never actually been or fallen into the water yet. I say yet because sometimes on a canoe they do like to get to the edge and kind of look over. So I'm always like having palpitations, like holy crap, hold on to that leash really tight because because you never know. I mean, something could spook them, something small could spook them, and they could like jump in there, right? So just getting them used to the water, being close to the water, the sounds of water, I find helped us really well. Now they love being on a boat. We've done canoeing, not kayaking, but we've done like a fishing boat, and also like those big inflatable um, float boat things that we did that last summer. We went down quite a rough river actually, but it was this giant, basically inflatable thingy that they loved. Um, yeah, so just be mindful. You have to keep your eyes on them at all times. That's one thing I would like to stress is don't get distracted by the beauty of nature around you. Keep your eyes on those cats because they get spooked in 2 seconds and you never know. You never know.
To piggyback off
Yeah.
what Sabrina said about the life jackets, it is true. It's really hard to find a life jacket that is the correct fit for a cat, especially because cats don't really have big chests like dogs do. So we usually try to find like a very extra small, like dog like vest from like a local pet store or something like that. But again, always keep the harness and leash intact at the same time, just in case the life vest does come off at any point. Our cats, they're pretty like comfortable around the water. It's more of like, I would suggest desensitizing your cat in the beginning to water itself, whether it's just even having water in the bathtub, to a walk on the beach or something like that. Anything that'll just help desensitize them to just the sound of water and being around it. Because usually it's just the sound of the water that makes them really scared. Sometimes the waves come lap over and it's super loud and they could crash and everything. So it can be a little frightening for the cat, but as long as you desensitize them to both the water, the sounds, it would be completely fine. But it could take a lot of time. Just know it's all a patience game. Everything in training a cat is just a patience game as well.
And to also
Yeah,
add on the life
exactly.
jacket, though, I wanted to mention there are many cats like you'd see on Instagram who look really comfortable wearing like bulkier life jackets. It also depends on the breed of cat you have, right? Like if you have a very floofy cat, maybe those type of life jackets might work. But for my guys, they're really small, they're very slender, they don't have a lot of fluff. So those type of life jackets are really bulky on them. But there's some really good tips on the chat as well of some places that might carry some good life jackets.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. If you have a moment to look at the chat, if you haven't yet, we've got, just like Safrina mentioned, some tips for life jackets, some tips for securing the tent at night if you're camping. This is awesome. I love that everyone's been interacting because this is such a great way to get connected to the travel cat community. And before we transition to another room, I just want to open it up for maybe a couple questions from you all. Maybe it has something to do with the theme of Beyond the Basics, or maybe it's more connected to training older cats. But if you could just ask that question in the chat, I'm going to keep an eye on it here. I'd love to get a couple questions in. Oh, awesome. Okay, tips for walking in the city. So I don't know between the two of you who wants to take this one. Ryan, I feel like I've seen you all in Pike Place so often. So
Yeah, of course. Again, like for any tips for walking the city, again, is always plan and prepare. So you want to know the area that you're going in, whether or not there's going to be a high volume of like traffic or anything that like loud noises or just a huge amount of people in a certain area. We like to bring our cats to like urban adventures, which can be like the Pike Place Market in Seattle or like farmers markets, or even just a walk down the road. Just as long as you prepare for like basically the unexpected. We like to carry our navigator bag with our wagon so that our cats have a really big space to walk around, not only just in the bag, but as well as inside the wagon. As we're walking around, everyone stops us like every 5 seconds just to ask questions. But if your cat is a little bit more skittish, because our cat Newt, he's a little bit more anxious when it comes to being in urban adventures, I would recommend just like, a anxiety relief drop or any kind of CBD drop also really, really helps. What's great about CBD is that it's very difficult to overdose a cat on CBD. Usually they'll just mellow out or even fall asleep. And with Newt, he'll just be super calm and he'll lay inside the navigator bag whenever we're out in the city and he'll just relax the entire time. So
Yeah, and also to like add a little bit more,
awesome.
something I've noticed is, so when I take Emu to the farmer's market, they actually play a lot of loud music and she does not like that. So we don't take her as much anymore, but my older cat who just turned 7, he actually really, really likes it. I did not expect him to at all even care to go outside, but he pokes his head out the entire time. He's so adventurous to the activity. But I would recommend gauging on how your cat reacts. Your cat just stays skid the whole time. Maybe reduce the crowd you're around, reduce the environment, start very small, like go to a park with people in it. But don't try to just throw your cat into something outrageous with a lot of people and music where they're going to want to touch your cat all the time, because it could scare and it could deter your cat from wanting to do that again.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great points. And we've got so many great questions here and we're running low on time. So I just I wanted to thank some of the hosts for answering a couple questions that popped up in the chat. Please check that to see if one of your questions did get answered.
Answer some on the
So
chat.
what's that?
I'll answer some on the chat. I'll just list it to everybody.
And I
Awesome.
think
Yeah.
somebody was asking, I think they posted that question twice, about cats like following, older cats having a hard time following as you were
Yep.
as they're walking. I'll just quickly jump in and say, you'll never really get a cat to follow like how you would expect a dog to follow you when you're walking, right? It's try not to compare, because it's like apples and oranges. They're not going to walk alongside you or follow you as a dog would. So if you want to try and make it easier for them or help them get used to walking alongside you, start at home first, but also make your next adventure somewhere really quiet, really like not busy at all, so you can help them and kind of guide them to walk with you. Please don't try and take them to a park and expect them to just walk beside you or follow you or anything like that, because that's just really, once they get spooked or once something really scares them, it's really hard to break them out of that situation to get it back to a positive experience. So take your time, go to somewhere really quiet and peaceful, and walk away from there.
I love it. Thank you, Zafrina and Ryan, so much for sharing the tips that you did. And before we leave, we're going to announce some winners for prizes. This is so exciting. So just in case you were maybe distracted, I'm going to pull you back. We're doing prizes right now, okay? So let's see here. Okay, we have a harness winner. Judy, are you here still in the meeting? Judy El Motadi.
Hi, yeah.
Are you here? You won a harness. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yay!
So exciting. Okay, I've got some other winners. All right, so everyone stay cued in. We've got some In Clover supplement winners. Okay, so Lisa Palladino, are you here still? Lisa?
Yes, I am. Yes, thank you.
Yay!
Thank you.
We have a couple more. Stay tuned. Also for the In Clover supplement winners, Mary Gossett and Andrew C. Are you with us? That's
Yes,
Mary Gossett. Okay, awesome. Yay. And Andrew C. I'm not positive on your full last name, so if we have multiple Andrews, we'll have to see how that shakes out.
And can you say one more time, what did we win?
Oh, the In Clover supplement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So congrats, you all. And then in the chat, just take a look there. The next program is being shared, so you can refer to that to choose the next panel that you want to be in. I think Ryan's going to be in one in the next slot. A little bit more about hiking, being outside. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking at the chat to see if yep, there's the event program. It's kind of towards the end there. So just refer to that to get into the next meeting. It was so fun to be with you all.
Thank you
Thanks for
so much.
joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're going to just take a couple minutes to wait for everyone to pop in. I know that the other sessions may have taken a little bit of time, so just going to wait a couple seconds, I guess. I know that we're on a huge time constraint right now, so. Yeah, so if you're staying for the hiking and outdoor session, you could actually just stay in this session.
I'm rejoining as the chat, so it knows it's me talking.
All right. So I want to see if all my hosts are in here.
Same people.
I'm not a host, but I'll just stay here.
Yeah, of course, by all means.
Outdoors, you can stay in this session.
I think we're looking for Kaylee or Kylie from Kenny and Fox.
Hi, we're here.
Oh.
Awesome, cool. Trying to get you guys pinned and everything so that we can see you.
Sweet.